Hey guys, so before we get started on our lesson, please make sure that you have completed math boxes on page 143 to go over with Miss Borlick. This looks familiar, numbers 1 and 2. If you look really closely at number 2 right here, this is what today's lesson is going to be about. We're going to talk about what each one of these individual fractions is called, and we're going to talk about how we add fractions with like denominators. So, and just as a reminder, this is preview for Unit 5. So please don't be upset if you see things on here and you're thinking, I've never done this before, I don't know how to do it. I know it's just a preview to kind of give you an idea of what's ahead. Okay, so page 143, you had problems 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 using your template. This is just the green template to use for a straight edge, and then using a plot graph where you plot the dots above here with the information for number 5. Okay, so hopefully that's complete. If not, pause now, complete it, and then start the video when Miss Borlick is ready for you to begin your lesson. Okay. All right, so today's lesson, let's look at my whole fraction circle here. Okay, this is my whole. If you were using your foam holes, this would be red, right? Okay, and I'm going to add a fraction piece, one at a time. Okay, so I have 1/4. So you know that there will be 4 yellow pieces here when I'm done, but so far I've only added 1/4. And then we're going to add another 4th. And then a third fourth, right? And if I wanted to know how much of that was colored yellow, I could add these fractions up just like you normally would add. Okay, I'm just going to add the 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 1 more is 3. And notice the denominator stays the same because it's still going to be out of 4 pieces. Okay, so if I added these up to say how many parts were yellow, I would say that it was 3/4, right? And these numbers here, these 1/4, these 3 different ones, they have a special name in math. We call them unit fractions. And a lot of times you're going to be asked to take a fraction and name the unit fractions for them, which is kind of reverse, okay? So it looks like that. Right, here is your fraction, 3/4, and they want you to show the unit fractions. There's that vocabulary word again. And so what they mean is they just want you to decompose or break down this number. Okay, so we did 1 plus 1 plus 1. We're going to start off with doing them really easy with the ones, and then I'll show you another way that we can do it where you're decomposing the fractions into bigger chunks. But let's start off with just decomposing with unit fractions that start with 1. Okay, so if you want to write this down in your notebook, you can just label it unit fractions. And we're going to do a couple for examples here. So let's look at our fraction circle. We have a total of 10 pieces, 2 of which are colored in. My directions say show each fraction as the sum of unit fractions. Okay, well, here's my sum, the answer to an addition problem, and I'm going to break this up by showing I have 1/10 plus 1/10 equals 2/10. Really easy because it's just regular addition. But keep in mind, these denominators always stay the same because it's still out of the whole piece, right? The 10 pieces. Okay, let's try another one. How about 5/8? If I wanted you to show me a fraction as the sum of unit fractions, okay, so here's my fraction as a sum, what would my unit fractions look like? Go ahead and write that down. Okay, you should have had 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, right? Because when we count those all up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is the same thing or equal to the fraction 5/8. Okay, pretty simple. Let's try this one though. Okay, this one has a funny looking fraction. Remember, if you remember what we called those, but 4/3 when the numerator is bigger than the denominator, we call that an improper fraction, right? Because the number is heavier on top. So this is an improper fraction, 4/3, but you can still record it with unit fractions because we're just going to take each part, right, and add it up. So we have 3 on this part plus the 1 part over here. So our unit fractions is just going to look like this. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. Now, we can, and you'll see later on in our lesson, that this improper fraction can be recorded as a mixed number. A mixed number is when you have one whole piece and a little bit of fraction left over, just like this picture. So if you look at the blue whole piece, we have 3/3, right? 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. And we know 3/3 is the same as 1 whole. And then we have a fraction on this side. So 4/3 is actually going to be written like this as a mixed number. 1 whole plus 1/3. Okay? Same thing. These are the exact same things. Now, can you write it as 4/3 in 4th grade? Sure. But what we're trying to get to is recording these 1 and 1/3, these mixed number fractions. Those will be what you're expected to write in the middle school, and that is the preferred way. Okay? All right, so keep that in mind. We'll see that again in a little bit. Okay, how about 4/5? We write this down. We know we're getting the hang of this, right? The unit fractions for 4/5 is just going to be 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. Okay, but now let's try to look at it with some bigger numbers or bigger chunks. Okay, if we decompose the number 4, remember, decompose is just a math vocabulary word for breaking down into smaller numbers. I could break down 4/5 into additional combinations, right? So I still have 4/5, but this time maybe I have 1/5 plus 1/5, and then I've grouped these 2/5, right? And I can do that because when I add these top numerators, 2 plus 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4, it's still equal to 4/5. Can you see another way I could do that? Still wanting to show 4/5 as my sum. Maybe you came up with this one. 1/5 plus these 3/5. Okay? Same thing. It's just different ways of showing it. Okay? Let's try some of the fractions we've already done and show them additional ways to decompose. So let's look at these 5/8. It's another way that we could show 5/8 besides breaking it up into individual ones. Maybe you thought of 2/8 plus 3/8, right? 2 plus 3. And there's other ways too, right? We could do 1/8 plus 4/8. And we can also do turnaround problems just like we do in regular addition. I could say 3/8 plus 2/8, right? It's just another way of decomposing. All right, let's look at that mixed number again. 1 and 1/3. Now, if that's tricky and it's hard for you to imagine that, just go back to the 4/3. Okay, and thinking about 4/3. What is another way we can decompose 4? Okay, maybe you got this 3/3 plus your 1/3. 3 plus 1 is going to equal 4, right? Which is 4/3, or as a mixed number, 1 and 1/3. Right? Okay, so you're getting the hang of it. Your job is to turn to Math Journal, page 155. It says, let's try this together. So you're going to try with Miss Borlick. You're going to write an equation to show each fraction as a sum of unit fractions. That's exactly what we just did. You can do 1/12 plus 1/12, so on, all the way to 5/12, or you can decompose 5 in a different way. Same thing on number 2. Don't get confused or worried about that denominator. I know 100 looks like a big number, but we're only focused on that numerator, okay? We're just decomposing that top number. Okay, so give those 2 a try. Discuss that as a class, okay? And then when you're done with that, you're going to try on your own to record 3 separate ways to decompose 7/10 into a sum of fractions course, they all have to have the same denominator, right? So they did the example as 5/10 plus 2/10. Your job is to find 3 additional ways to break down or decompose that number 7, okay? And write them as fractions. That's it today, guys. That's all you're going to have to do. No home links today. But if you have questions, please let Miss Borlick know. I will also be live on Zoom if you just need to pop on there, go through your Canvas module, and I'll be there and I can help if you need me. Okay, good luck.